Hey, you've made it to SprySpace, where people managing social media accounts come for community. This year, our focus is social media for good. Together, we can work to make social media a landscape for healthy online communities to grow. Sound good? Then come along with us on the SprySpace podcast, where we share what we know, learn what we don't, and strive to make social media better for us all. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the SprySpace podcast. I'm Lacey, and today Chad and I are back at it again. We've got another amazing musician here, Hayley Lynn. Hayley Lynn has gained momentum as one of Portland's top singer-songwriters. She's got the lyrics of Elle King, the attitude of Amy Winehouse, and the tenderness of Adele. I love that description. Her most recent album is The Hurt, and this year she's released 2 new singles, Do For You and Danny Devito, my personal favorite. Hayley, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
I'm great. I'm really good. Super stoked to be here. Thanks so much for having me on the show.
You're so welcome. I'm so excited Chad brought you to us. Chad, his past life, for listeners who don't know, was in the music world. And so Chad's kind of been the one bringing musicians to us for the podcast this month. But this is the first one. You two actually have never worked together before or anything like that either. You just have been following her.
That's right. Yeah. Saw her through social media. That's why I thought it was a good fit for the social media for good. But I've been, following her for a couple of years, and we've chatted a couple of times over Messenger or something like that. I was always trying to find out where she was playing so I could go see her and stuff. But I still have never seen a live show, so which makes sense within the last year being COVID. But yeah, some days I'll see her live. But I love your music, Hayley. You're just doing such a great job.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Well, one of these days we'll get you at a live show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I always like to start off with a question around social media. So, our focus at Spry is this concept of social media for good, and what good is social media if it can't spark a little joy in our life? So, from your perspective, over the last little while, tell me about a piece of social media content you saw recently that brought you joy.
I do. I have a lot of pieces that just have made me giggle and laugh, but one that I just can't stop laughing at is this one TikTok video about how this woman, sometimes cats get on people's laptops or sit on them. And apparently what I at least heard in the TikTok video is they do that because they want to mirror you. So if you actually get them a little laptop, they will go behind the laptop and they'll leave you alone. And then she got a little mini mirror laptop for the cat, and now he's a businessman, and it's just hilarious. Yeah, I love that. I was oh my God, I needed to get that for my cat. Not that she sits on my computer, but I want a little businesswoman.
A little business cat. Oh, that's so good. The number of times that animal videos are in the top things that spark people's joy is impressive.
Yeah.
Animals are doing good on social right now.
They do. They are the best thing on social.
So I want to talk about music a bit here first. So you released 2 new singles this year. Danny Devito was in April. Is that correct?
Yeah. That came out April 9th or 8th. April 9th or 8th.
And then Do For You was just at the end of May, just a couple of weeks ago here too.
Yeah, May 28th. It's a fresh off the farm.
Are these projects that you've been working on throughout pandemic?
They were. Danny Devito took kind of a whole year to put together because originally I was going to work with someone else, but because scheduling just didn't pan out with that individual. And I still want to work with them someday, but I ended up working with my partner, James Julian Villa, with the song, and I couldn't be happier with the results. It did take a little bit of time. Mostly it was us trying to figure out, okay, vibe, sound, do we want to do this? And we actually sat on the song for a while because we wanted to figure out how to release it the right way. I originally made a music video with John Mayer back in January of this year for the music video. And I really wanted to figure out how to release it properly. And yeah, and then it just like I said, hey, let's just get out into the world in April. And I've been really just so happy with how people have been receiving it. It's been really great. But Do For You was also in the making along with Danny DeVito and another song that I'm currently in the process of making a music video for as well. So yeah, all of those songs came from the quiet and slowness of the pandemic. So
yeah, I'm like, paint a picture for me of how Danny DeVito came to life. You know, are you just sitting there and you're like, that'd be funny. You know, how does that concept come to you?
Well, I actually originally wrote the song back in 2019, summer 2019. I was personally, I was going through some things, like some personal stuff, and I wanted to cheer myself up. And one of the things that I did was marathon every Danny DeVito movie that I know of. And,
wow, what a great idea.
And I just started writing this song. Like I was like, I didn't realize, I can access GarageBand on my phone. And I was like, okay, well, I want to just kind of write something and just figure something out. So I started off with like a bass line on my guitar, and then I just came up with the lyrics. I'm like, oh, okay, like I'm walking tiptoe past your ego incognito. And I'm like, I really like those words. And then I'm like, what else rhymes with that? And I'm like, Danny DeVito? I'm like, oh, okay, we got to do this. So I tested it in front of some friends, and I kind of released a really rough demo on my phone, and people liked it. So I'm like, okay, well, I have to take this to the next level. So the next level was during the process of the pandemic. So the song kind of took 2 years to make because it just kept on being like, should we do that? Me sitting on it some more, pandemic, and then it kind of came to be. But I think...
Is that normal for your songs, for them to kind of take that long to develop over time, or is this a bit one that's a little bit of an outlier?
I think this one kind of like took a bit of time because I was currently working on putting together my record, The Hurt, in 2019. So I sat on that song because I'm like, this is kind of funkier than The Hurt. The Hurt had its own kind of vibe, its own kind of story behind it. So I'm like, okay, I'm not going to put this on this record, but let's see what we're going to do with it. And then everything else happened in the world, and I had to wait on it. But I find that at least the start of the pandemic, everybody seemed, at least from my friend group, being very creative, like especially in the Portland art scene. Everyone was like, I can write. I have time to write. And for me, I couldn't do anything. Like I was just kind of like, I'm just gonna think about stuff first and process this before I can actually create. So I wouldn't say Danny kind of resembles the same creation process that I have with other releases, or even like my like earlier releases. This one, just life stuff happened, and I had to kind of juggle everything along with it, Yeah.
I have this concept or this idea that like the level of devotion that you put into a project, if you think of it like a math equation that like equals out on both sides, the level of devotion that goes into the creation side equals out and balances out on the other side from a consumer standpoint.
Yeah.
And so, this video that's out on your YouTube only came out a month ago and has 5,600 views, the most views of any of your videos.
It does, yeah.
And the comments that are coming through for this, I'm going to read a couple of them.
Oh, go for it, yeah.
If this song doesn't blow up, I will eat my hat. It's so good. I love every second of this video. Okay, next one. This one's very creative. This is incredamazing. I've never heard that before. The last one I pulled was great song with amazing video. It's like 1996 again on MTV. Really, this song could be in the top 10 on the music charts. And I mean, that's so wonderful. How does that feel, getting that kind of feedback on a project you've sat on and held on to for a while?
It feels really good. It feels really good. Not to feed my ego, but it just, especially kind of questioning whether I was doing the right things, whether I should kind of continue with music, because I feel like myself and a lot of other musicians, once the pandemic kind of hit, we were all questioning, like, is this, like, this is something that we love doing, but what about when things get a little hard? So I always, at least during that time, I felt kind of directionless. So having this kind of, these comments or this kind of reception for it definitely made me feel like I'm on the right direction. And it feels good. Like, the video was so much fun to make. It was really fun. Working with the director, John Meyer, was incredible. I've worked with him on several other projects, but this one we were both in the mindset, like, okay, we got to top everything else that we've done. And it was just so fun. I had my friends in the music video.
Did you?
I did.
You had the dancers in the back.
Yeah,
and
like,
everything. Yeah.
I mean, we all, like, it was like during the time where we all had to be in our own bubble, and those guys were in my bubble. So I'm like, hey, want to be in my music video? And it worked out great. My sister did the choreography for it, and we all kind of taught each other online before we showed up. And it was so much fun, and I think you can kind of tell that we had a lot of fun doing it. And
Now, John Meyer, he did your other video too, the Pretty Girl video.
he
too,
did,
right?
yeah.
And that one also is incredible. That's
Thank you.
a work of art.
Yeah, I think he has a really wonderful way of conveying a story within a song. Like, you know, a story is, songs can definitely be about story, and they're story driven, but he actually took a very applicable story from the song and really shown that within the visuals, within the whole music video. And I thought he did a really wonderful job, you know? Like, that's one of my favorite videos. I mean, Danny Devito, okay, I love it. I love Danny. It's just,
I just love it too.
It's great.
We were singing, when we got on the Zoom call, we were singing it.
Bopping along to it.
I've told you, Hayley, the guitar part.
Yeah.
That's so great.
Yeah.
It's stuck in my head for months.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, James, my partner, he produced it, and like all that, he made it into a really wonderful bop. Like, he did a fantastic job with it. I cannot commend him for how wonderful of a producer he is, and just writing with him in general. Like, we wrote Do For You together along with our friend Eric Stalker, and we also wrote the upcoming songs. There's a couple more coming out. I'm trying to figure out, should I release it like single by single by single, but James,
tell us, give us the scoop on all these. Give us the inside scoop.
Yeah, so I don't know, like, there's a lot of songs we're working on right now. I think we're going to end up making I think the first thing we're going to release is an EP, however songs that may be, I'm not sure, and then we're going to make a full-length album. But yeah, I'm really stoked. I'm really stoked for all of them, because I feel like I'm kind of taking my music to a level where I've always wanted to make people dance. I've always wanted to make people move, like, especially like working with my sister on the music videos. Like, for one, she did the choreography for Danny DeVito, but for Do For You, she was actually in the music video. She was one of the dancers. I was
wondering about those dancers.
Yeah. So I want to make music that can make people move, get into their bodies. You know, I feel like we've been so separated, so disconnected for so long, that the next couple of songs or even a full-length album, I want to make people dance, and I want to like celebrate us coming back together, you know, being connected again. Yeah, like the next song I think we're gonna release is called Taillights, and it's kind of a breakup song, but it's like, it's bringing back in like those classic rock sounds like from Fleetwood Mac, and maybe a little bit, well, definitely Fleetwood Mac vibes, but that's the next single that's going to come out, but it's definitely like a one that we can all sway to and dance to, as well as the next one after that, I think, is going to be our song Hush, which I wrote with James as well. So both of those songs I wrote with James, but those are, I think, the next songs that are going to come out. We might, strong maybe. Strong maybe. We'll find out.
I love the almost vision or mission statement of this album being I want to make people dance. I just finished, my mom made me do it. She made me listen to the Brene Brown book, The Gifts of Imperfection. And I just finished it. And the biggest takeaway I got from that is that play, the act of play, which includes dancing, singing, basically anything that doesn't get you to an end point that brings you this sense of joy, right? That play is just as important as rest for us as humans. And that the opposite of depression isn't activity, it's playfulness. So like playfulness is this other end of the spectrum, and there's so many people who have been so isolated and depressed during this time that the vision of bringing people back to life through play and having your music be a part of that is really beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah, I haven't read that yet, but I completely agree with it 100%. I think that's one thing that a lot of people kind of turn to, maybe alcohol or other things, because those substances kind of bring us that euphoric feeling that we had when we were kids. I actually had a wonderful conversation about this with a friend, and I think one of the things I really miss about being a kid or being, euphoric or youthful is just like this feeling that we can play, and that we don't have to have something attached to it. We can just be goofy. We can just be playful. And I want us to kind of find that again. I don't know. I know for myself, I love being goofy. I think I've finally surrounded myself with a good crew of people that are all goofy, all playful, and it just feels really good to have that kind of community, communication, and everything. So if we can give that back to anybody who's listening, I that's all I want.
That's beautiful. So I want to shift the topic to social media for a minute
Yeah.
here. So I want to understand from your perspective as an artist and a musician, what role does social media play for you? How does it play into your career and your community and connection with fans, et cetera?
I think it really plays a big role, more so now than it was when I was younger. The way that I kind of think of it, and the way that I think is the best way to think about it, is it's part of the game of being an indie artist. If it's a game, I don't really want to see it as being anything so personal, but social media plays such a big role in how your audience can find you. It's a big game of hide and go seek, basically. Like mostly seeking, but but you are the artist that is like being discovered. So outside of the audience, outside of your local audience, which is where you live, where you usually play your gigs, there's this whole world of people who can potentially love what you do as an artist. And it's a big game of trying to find them so they can enjoy your music. So it's huge, but it's also one of the best tools that you can have as an artist, because you can find people around the world that, you probably never would have met in person before, but they found you. And now they love what you do, and they love the things that you write. And I've actually found a couple of friends, like one's in Finland and one's in LA, who just discovered me through Danny Devito. And it's just really cool to connect with people like that.
Right now, are you responsible for doing all of your own posting and presence management and everything?
Yeah, I am.
How is that for you?
I think it is okay. I feel like there's a lot of things I'm currently learning. I'm mostly just kind of trying things and seeing what works and what doesn't work, seeing like the data behind the things that I post. It is kind of like, it's like a game, but mostly if you think about the end goal of being like, if my music is in front of the right people, great. But I'd say the hardest part is finding the time to do all of it. I still have my full-time job. I still, I'm gigging's coming back again, and then you also want to have time for the real people that you love in your life too. Like your family and your friends and your loved ones. So I think the hardest part is finding the time to do all of it, or doing it consistently. Consistency and quality are like the two big components of making it work, I think. I know so many of my friends, or like a good chunk of them, who are consistently putting out really great content, or like content that really speaks to people. And that's how they're gaining an audience, is by giving, knowing that their product is worth something, or doing something that they love to do and someone else can enjoy it. That's like the way that I would describe like the way all of us are kind of starting to think, is that we're creating things that we enjoy, but it's really giving to other people too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I noticed that your most watched reel on Instagram is just this little clip of what if we made music for cats? And I'm like, I mean, could we just do cat music? Maybe we've got little cat professional laptop, cats bopping to Danny DeVito. Like, can we bring a cat campaign into your overall content scheme?
I kind of want to do that. Like I've talked to James like, hey, can we actually make music for cats? Because that sounds really fun. But we've also talked about making, like, maybe down the line, making music for kids. Like, we are both silly people, and we love making really goofy stuff along with the stuff that we are like really proud of. But it's all that sense of play. I can't believe that video has like the most views, but it's hilarious. I like when I sometimes watch it, I'm like, oh my God, okay, yeah, this is hilarious. Cause like we were playing around with we were like writing a song, and we were like playing around with different instruments for this like particular instrumental section. And we were like, oh my God, this sounds like this should be like in a video game or like for a cat video or something. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe along the line we will do that. I feel like that's a good marketing and job opportunity to make music specifically for cats. Like,
I think it's brilliant.
It's a whole audience.
All about it.
I think one good example is that video that you did, Disco Montana, of the In My Room, or it's called In My Room or something like that. But you guys were having a blast making that video. You could tell.
Oh, man.
That came through, definitely.
Yeah. Oh man, yeah. I was so stoked. That song is just so fun, and we were like, hey, let's just, we don't really have the money right now to actually make a music video, so why don't we just like film it in my room? And it turned out great. We just kind of used. Too. Thanks.
See, that's another one of those examples of like when you're actually having so much fun on this side of the equation during the creation process, when it's consumed, that level of fun balances back out on the other side, right? People can actually feel the feelings that were put into the creation of a project that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I need to fill my life with more of those fun things, because it's always so rewarding doing anything that is like that can just make you feel like authentically yourself. Like that's the one thing I really enjoy, or not. I'm phrasing this oddly, but one of the new things that's kind of happening is people are wanting like a personal brand. They want to like follow, they want to support, they want to buy, not so much buy, but like they want to invest in people who are completely authentic and like personable, who are real people. I feel like we're all past this phase where we're trying to seek perfection. I mean, I'm sure like there's always going to be that theme, but I think that we're kind of done with that. We really want real experiences, and we want to find real stories and real people. And I think that's one thing about the new wave of social media that I'm just really excited for. People being completely authentic and real.
Yeah, the jig is up.
Yeah.
The jig is up. Now that there are so many creators and there's just so much content that you can choose from at any time. We don't have to take the content from mass media. We don't have to, and I even see from a social media perspective, I see this big shift between these macro influencers, right? These huge influencers with many millions of followers versus these 10,000, 5,000 follower micro influencers. And the return that you get from building a relationship with a few micro influencers versus the return that you get as a brand by having just one thing posted out to 2 million people, it's immense. People don't really care to hear what somebody was paid to say. They care more to hear about what somebody's actual experience is, what people's actual opinions are. And we have the freedom to be able to plug into those experiences instead of having to be forced into the media outlets of macro influencers now.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
One thing that I feel like you deserve major kudos and just like I'd like to bow down a little is I noticed in your YouTube videos, your Instagram posts, everything, if somebody comments, you're like responding to every comment right now. Is that difficult for you? How do you keep up with that kind of thing?
I'd say it's the same thing about it's not difficult. It just takes time. Thinking of a comment as someone reaching out to you, and if you ignore them, then they could just miss out on something that you create and that they could potentially really love. That's why I want to engage with them. I want them to know me in a sense that they can discover more about my music and my story. So I don't think it's difficult. It's just, it's a way of you can like actually connecting to your audience on a one-on-one basis.
Well, it shows a sincere commitment to, building community, as opposed to just, maybe gaining attention. So I commend you for that work. It's not easy to kind of be plugged in and aware of those things all the time. And it does just take work, right? Attention and intention, and it's a very good practice. I was very impressed to see comments back on every YouTube comment.
Well, it's just like especially if they leave like a comment like one of the ones that you mentioned above, like it's like why would you not want to respond to that? That's just so sweet. Or like if someone has really something thoughtful to say, like they deserve to like hear something back from you. If they're being that like generous with their time to me, then I need to give them something in return, like my time.
Well,
like
it takes some vulnerability, right?
It does take vulnerability.
Putting themselves out there, and they don't know that they're going to hear back from you or anything like that, but they still feel like that's what they want to say, and so it means everything when they do hear back from you.
Yeah, like, and you never know what might happen. It could always be someone who is in the music scene themselves, and because of that connection, you could potentially collaborate with them. You never know. There's always going to be there's just so many different stories out into the world, and it just takes like one small move to kind of like collide in such a nice way. Like
they could even work on a podcast or something like that. And
yeah, you can work on a podcast. I'm down. Let's do it.
So I have a question then, because I think you're just doing such a good job of presenting yourself on social media and on YouTube and just having such a good presence there. Social media for good is a concept that we've been talking about for so long, talking about bringing good into the world through social media, about being mindful of the content that we're taking in, and also like taking a really good hard look at what's wrong with social media, the actual platforms, the laws around the platforms, and how we can positively impact them. So I guess I'm wondering, from your perspective, how can other artists and musicians also be using social media for good?
That's a really great question. I think just from what I've viewed and how I've kind of learned to use social media as a tool, using your platform as a way to shed light about important issues around the world, being another voice in support of the things that you believe in. It's also like a great tool to stay informed, to stay educated. I know many of us used and continue to use social media over the last year to stay informed about what was happening around the country, politically and socially, especially with the Black Lives Matter movement, and sharing those stories and sources of information. So, their followers or our followers can, teach each other and themselves how to understand all of what's happening as well. There's a lot of negative stuff on the internet right now, and it has been for a while, but if you use it in a way to really teach yourself and others, that being said, making a note that you should always understand or research the sources of information as well. Don't share something that is like fake news or it hasn't a real reliable source, always cite your sources and check your information first. But it's a great tool to learn and to teach yourself. It's a great way to share information about what's happening and like what you can actively do to make those things better within the world and within your own community.
Is it difficult for you at all to choose what type of content you talk about and share based on the fact that you, Hayley, are an individual, but then you also kind of have your public facing persona of, your Hayley Lynn music? How do you go about deciding what topics you choose to share and comment on and which ones maybe you choose not to?
I think that, if it's something that's really important, I think that we really need to share it and spread voice. You can always have links within your bio on Facebook or Instagram of more sources of information if the people who follow you are curious to learn more, giving them access to that, I also think that there's some things that I can actively, have more success in helping by, actively talking to people in my life. So within social media, there's certain things that you can do, but there's actively things that you can do outside of social media too that you can be a good, influence to. There's a lot of things that you can do actively within your community and active online. But it's also kind of a balance, like finding. If sometimes I find that like. Even though I use social media as a tool, I find that sometimes I think that my mental health needs to be taken care of more sometimes, especially if you see such negative things continuously. It has an impact on your mental health. And I think that knowing when to say, okay, you know what, I could say something about this, but, I think I need to just like process this inwardly and learn from it and, do my own research and be my own teacher for this because I need to take care of this part of myself. I need to take care of my own health and my own brain. And then when I can be my best self and when I can absorb everything and understand it properly, then I can be the best tool that I can be to help.
Have either of you watched the Bo Burnham Netflix special Inside?
No, I haven't yet, but I really want to.
Somebody recommended it to me last weekend and I watched it, and it's genius. Obviously, I imagine you would nearly go mad creating this content that he created, but one of the songs is called like The Internet, and it's like a little just come for a little bit of everything all of the time. And it also says, he has this little stand-up portion in the middle of it that's like, could any one individual of us just shut the F up about just one topic for like just 1 hour? Could any individual person just shut the F up about just one topic for just 1 hour?
Yeah.
And it's what you're talking about, there's like, sure, we could talk about all of these things and we could shout it on every platform we want, but like, what is it? Are we serving? What are we actually serving?
Yeah.
Does it make more sense for us to talk in person with the people who are closest to us? Does it make more sense? What's the actual return on us not shutting the F up all the time?
Yeah, like you don't necessarily have to make an impact. Like you don't have to post everything on social media. Like some things you can have for yourself. You can save those things for yourself so you can understand them better, and then be a more empathetic and wonderful human being. There's just so many things happening continuously all the time. You need to take care of yourself first before you can be the warrior person that you are,
So you're leading so well into the last segment that I like to talk about, which is like your personal relationship with social media. Mm-hmm. So I've got a couple layers of questions for that. So one is like, what platforms are you on for social media, and which ones do you enjoy versus not enjoy?
Okay. Well, I find that I have some thing on most platforms. Like I have Instagram, I have Facebook, I have Twitter, I have a TikTok. There's probably something else I don't really know. Oh, YouTube. Yeah, duh. That's like, I'd say YouTube and Instagram are the ones that I like the best because I feel like I can be more artistic on those. TikTok's just fun because it gives me cat videos, and I like taking videos of my cat too. So, but I'd say Facebook is a great way for, like, I've always kind of considered Facebook as a way of me connecting. When I lived in Canada, it was a way for me to talk to my family when I was in school in Canada. So that's mostly just a way to kind of stay in touch with my friends abroad and across the country. So that's more so like a social one, just to kind of connect with your friends and family mostly. But I'd say, yeah, Instagram or YouTube. Those are the two ones that I try to put out like thoughtful and consistent content on.
Okay, so how's your overall relationship with social media? What are some of the maybe good habits that you have, maybe bad habits that you have? How's your overall relationship with social media right now?
It's a relationship. Some days it's good, some days it's bad. Some days I'm like, okay, this is a tool. Some days I'm like, okay, I let this give me a negative mindset. I let this happen to myself, and now I'm in a hole. So honestly, it shouldn't be taken so seriously as it does. But I need to teach. I know. I know I need to personally teach myself to use it just as a tool instead of anything personal. Because when I have taken it to a personal level, it has affected my mental health, and it should only be used as a tool, either to connect with people, collab with people, have people find you as an indie artist. But it shouldn't be taken in any level of like personally affecting you. That was a weird sentence. It shouldn't personally affect you the way that it has, at least from my mindset. Everybody has their own different mindset, but that's mine. But yeah, I'd say it's a game. It's a game, and sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. But more so, I think it's a great way to just connect with people that you don't necessarily see in person. But I'd like to think that it can be used for good.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
That was awesome. I have to say, like, a lot of what we do here at Spry is education. Actually, I mean, we are trying to teach people how to use social media for good, and you just gave our whole spiel right there.
I know. It feels good.
Know everything. It's really great. We're very knowledgeable about this.
Thank you.
We have last month was Mental Health Awareness Month in May, right?
Yeah.
And so we had a couple of counselors on talking about social media mental health. And, we recently had one of the counselors reach back out to us and just tell us that they have many like older teens, early 20s clients who are experiencing some pretty heavy depression off of their social media use, especially in regards to the comparative nature that can happen, especially for young people who don't quite have maybe the brain maturation to be more centered in themselves. Has that been anything that you've ever struggled with on social media, and that have you learned to, or have you entered at a different time where it wasn't an issue for you at all?
I was really lucky growing up in the fact that I didn't really get an iPhone until I was 21. So I always had like a flip phone, or really just like like phone. I just had a phone. I called people, I texted people.
I wish I had that as a gift right now.
Well, we call those dumb phones. They're not the smartphones, they're the dumb phones. Before the smart
but it
ones came
worked.
along.
And I actually remember having a wonderful conversation to my friend in Canada about like, don't get an iPhone. Don't get on the social media, because it's like, you're not going to be so present. You're not going to be connecting with people. And I did notice that when I had my dumb phone and all my friends had like smartphones, they would always be looking at their phones. They'd always be watching things. They'd always constantly be looking at their phones. And I'd be like, hey, come on, hang out with me. We're here together. And I noticed once I got that phone, and once I got the smart one, things I saw. When you're being shown the best things in everybody's life, or or just like the coolest things in everybody's life all the time, and the things that people are most excited about. You don't see anything else. You don't see any of the hard things, or how hard they had to work to get there. You automatically have this comparative mindset. You automatically compare yourself, and whereas, there's a lot of things that you should be proud about for yourself, a lot of things that you should, be grateful for. Yeah, everyone has their own process. And I don't think social media really shows that. I feel like one of the things I've at least tried to do with my own platform is to even express that vulnerability, like, hey, today's not a good day, or, just to kind of give awareness to, the other side of the spectrum, not necessarily all the great things, but, the struggle, or even the issues that I've personally, like, I struggle with depression, and I've struggled with anxiety for a very long time. And, I think that, I've gotten to a point where I don't fall into that trap. I mean, some days the trap's just there and you're like, oh, I'm in here now. This is where I live. But I think that it's a very mindful practice to teach yourself every day. If you have to be on social media for your work, like if you are an influencer, if you are a person who stares at the screen every single day, all the time for your day job, it takes a toll on you. You have to actively make changes or actively have moments in your day where you are not on social media, where you're not being involved like that, because it can really affect you and make what you're already struggling with worse. And that's the balancing act. That's the balancing act that you have to consistently do. I'd say that I'm more so in a place now than I have in the past, where I'm very comfortable with who I am as a person. I understand my flaws, but also my strengths and my weaknesses, and I'm really, really happy with where I am, and all the decisions that I've kind of lined up for myself, that I can kind of think more logically as opposed to being consumed by my heart or my emotions. And I think that we have to actively practice that, especially when you're viewing something perfect every day online. People are not really like that. People are flawed. People have imperfections.
I do wonder if part of the wisdom that I can see you carry about this comes from you starting a bit later on social media, and when we do listening sessions with teens about social media and their social media use and what they would tell younger kids, what we hear a lot is, once you start, you can't really go back. So if you could start later, right? If you could push out the time that you get a phone like this and you get on social media, that will have a positive return. And so I just started thinking about the idea that, maybe your first children's song could be like, our smartphone's really smart. Yeah. And, maybe you could make that for us, so we can use it for our
Totally.
youth campaign.
Yeah, definitely. I actually wrote a song called "I Wish You Loved Me Like Your Cell Phone."
That's right.
Back in 2018. It's a little outdated.
I've heard that.
I think once we kind of get on the kick of writing music for kids one day, I definitely think that we should write something along that vein. But then we would probably have to update it every couple years, because there's always going to be something new on the phone.
Yeah, soon it'll be your microchip.
Yeah, pretty much,
Well, I think I'm pretty happy. I went through most of what we have here. Chad, you happy? You have anything else?
This has been a lot of fun. Nope, I don't have anything other than to say thank you, Hayley, so much.
Of course. Thanks so much for reaching out to me and having me on the show. I'm just so stoked to be here with you guys today. So thank you so much for having me.
Yes, thank you for your time. And if you want to hear more from Hayley Lynn, you can find her all over. You can find her on YouTube, looking up Hayley Lynn Music, on Instagram, Hayley Lynn Music, on TikTok. On TikTok, you're just gonna find her cats. Hopefully, sometime soon they'll have a little laptop. But we will so look forward to when you first start doing some more live gigs again, and we'll follow along on your journey too. Okay?
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Hayley. And for everybody else, we will talk to you soon. Keep learning. Bye.
This SprySpace podcast was produced by Spry Social Media Marketing, Digital Marketing Agility. Edited by Chad Hinman and executive produced by Lacey Fott.